The stars shimmered like cold diamonds above the black void, and the small human rescue ship Aurora 7 drifted among them like a lonely spark. Inside the ship, Ethan Cole, a 20-year-old engineer from Earth, sat at the control panel watching the endless darkness. His fingers moved over the console with careful precision as he searched for signs of life among the wreckage of a ruined world. The planet below had once been full of light. Long ago, the Vanyari Empire was known for its beauty and wisdom, but now the world was silent. Cities had been reduced to gray dust and oceans boiled away to smoke. The destruction had come from a mysterious enemy, one even the Galactic Union feared to name. Ethan was part of a small human rescue mission sent to search for survivors. Many believed no one had lived through the fall of the Vanyari, but Ethan refused to give up hope. Something in him, a quiet belief in miracles, kept him scanning every signal, every flicker of energy, every faint heartbeat that space might hide. Suddenly, a soft tone echoed through the cabin. "Signal detected," the computer said in a calm, robotic voice. Ethan leaned forward quickly. The signal was weak, almost lost in static, but it was there, an emergency beacon coded in an alien frequency. The coordinates pointed to a damaged fortress on the edge of the planet's northern continent. His heart began to race. "Finally," he whispered. "Someone's still alive." Without waiting for orders, Ethan activated the ship's descent thrusters. Clouds of ash rose as the Aurora 7 entered the thin, burned atmosphere. Lightning danced across the horizon. The ship trembled, but Ethan's hands stayed steady. He had trained for dangerous missions before, but this one felt different, more personal, as if destiny itself was guiding him. When the ship landed on the scorched ground, the world around him looked like a graveyard. Towers were broken in half. Craters smoked with faint blue fire. The once beautiful sky was dim, filled with drifting debris. Ethan put on his helmet and stepped out, his boots sinking into gray dust. His visor showed faint life readings ahead. One, very faint, almost gone. He followed the signal through a ruined corridor until he reached a tall door carved with strange glowing patterns. The metal was cracked and blackened, but inside he could hear a soft pulse. Something or someone was still alive. Ethan used his plasma cutter to melt through the door and stepped inside. The room beyond looked like a throne chamber. Broken crystals and fallen banners covered the floor. In the center, surrounded by collapsed machinery, was a transparent pod. Inside it lay a young woman, pale-skinned with long silver hair that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Her clothes were torn, once royal, now covered in dust. A faint crown symbol glowed on her forehead. Ethan's breath caught. He had seen hollows of the Vanyari rulers before, but none so young. Could she be? He rushed forward and checked the readings on his scanner. Her life signs were weak but stable. "Hang on," he said softly, as if she could hear him. "You're not dying today." He pressed a few controls on the pod's panel, trying to understand the alien system. Luckily, many symbols were similar to the galactic language. He bypassed the energy locks and carefully opened the chamber. Cold air hissed out, and the young alien woman gasped, taking her first breath in what must have been days, or even weeks. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing like twin amethysts. She looked frightened at first, then confused. Who are you?" she whispered in a soft, trembling voice. "My name's Ethan," he said gently. "I'm human. I came to help." "Man?" she repeated, her voice weak but curious. She blinked, trying to sit up, but her body trembled. Ethan quickly helped her sit, offering her a water capsule from his pack. She drank slowly, her gaze fixed on him. "You saved me," she murmured. "Why?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Because that's what we do. We help when someone needs it." The woman's expression softened, though her eyes still carried sadness. "I am Aelira," she said quietly, "Queen of the Vanyari. Or what remains of them." Ethan froze for a moment. "The Queen? The last ruler of a fallen empire?" He couldn't believe it. "Then I guess the universe didn't want your story to end yet," he said, trying to lighten the moment. Aelira looked around at the broken chamber, her expression full of sorrow. "My people all gone. I felt their minds fade in the storm. I tried to protect them, but the enemy came with fire that ate the sky." Ethan didn't know what to say. He could only offer silent respect. "You're not alone now," he said firmly. "We'll get you to safety. There's still hope." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "You are very strange, human. But thank you. I owe you my life." Ethan helped her stand. She was weak, leaning on his shoulder as they walked back through the ruined hall. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal. Ash rained down, clinging to their suits. The ship's lights glowed through the storm like a small sun, waiting for them. When they reached the Aurora 7, Ethan guided her aboard and helped her into the medbay. The ship's AI began scanning her vital signs and translating her biology. She watched him the whole time, her curious eyes studying his every movement. "You risked your life for a stranger," she said softly. "Humans are different," Ethan chuckled. "We're full of surprises." She smiled faintly, the first hint of warmth on her face. "Then I hope to learn all of them." As the ship lifted off, the ruins of her world faded below. Elira pressed her hand to the window, watching her home disappear. "I will not forget this," she whispered. "You have given me back my breath. My people may be gone, but perhaps there is still a reason to live." Ethan watched her reflection in the glass. "There's always a reason," he said. "You just have to find it." The Aurora 7 rose higher, breaking through the smoky clouds into open space. Stars stretched out before them like a sea of light. For the first time in what felt like ages, hope flickered in both their hearts. But as the stars shimmered, a faint red light blinked on Ethan's console. The computer's voice returned, colder this time. "Warning. Unknown ships detected. They are following." Ethan frowned, leaning over the screen. The reading showed several vessels approaching fast, black, angular, and silent. He had seen that pattern before. They matched the description of the enemy fleet that destroyed the Vanyari world. Elira saw his expression and understood immediately. Her voice trembled. "They found us." Ethan's hands flew over the controls. "Then we'll make sure they don't get you again." The engines roared, and the Aurora 7 darted through the void like a shooting star. The enemy ships followed close behind, dark shadows in the light of distant suns. Elira gripped the seat, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "Why do you fight for me?" she asked over the rising alarm. "Because someone has to," he said simply, "and I'm not the kind of person who runs when someone needs help." Her heart stirred at his words. In all her life as a queen, surrounded by power and politics, she had never met anyone like him. Someone who acted out of pure kindness, not duty or gain. The warmth of gratitude filled her chest, chasing away the cold fear. As the stars streaked past the windows, the Aurora 7 vanished into the deep night, carrying two lives that destiny had woven together, a human who believed in hope, and an alien queen who had just begun to understand it. The small ship Aurora 7 flew through space like a silver arrow, leaving behind the ruined planet. Inside, alarms flashed red across the control panel. Ethan sat at the pilot's seat, focused, his eyes sharp with determination. The enemy ships were still following them, and they were getting closer with every passing second. "Hold on," he said, glancing toward Queen Elira, who sat beside him in a recovery chair. "This might get rough." Elira gripped the seat's edge tightly. "How many are there?" Ethan scanned the radar. 3 fast ones. Small attack crafts. Probably scouts. "If they call for reinforcements, we're in big trouble." Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. "Those ships belong to the ones who destroyed my world. They won't stop until they finish their task." Ethan nodded grimly. "Then we can't let them catch us." He pulled the throttle forward, and the Aurora 7 shot ahead. Stars stretched into long lines of light as the ship entered high-speed flight. But the enemies were still behind, their dark ships like shadows chasing a flame. "Computer," Ethan commanded, "activate defense mode." "Defense mode activated," replied the calm ship's AI. Metal panels shifted along the hull, forming protective shields. Energy barriers flickered to life. Elira's eyes widened in awe. "Your ship is small, but clever," Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans like to make the most out of what we have." Suddenly, bright beams of energy flashed past the window. One shot hit the back shield, shaking the cabin. Sparks flew across the console. "Shields at 70%, the computer warned. Ethan gritted his teeth. "They're faster than I thought." He pressed a few buttons, and the ship turned sharply toward a nearby asteroid belt. Huge rocks floated there, spinning slowly in the dark. "We'll lose them in the field," he said. "Isn't that dangerous?" Elira asked, holding onto the seat as the ship trembled. "Yeah," Ethan admitted. "But it's better than waiting to get caught." The Aurora 7 dove into the asteroid field. Giant stones drifted around them. some glowing faintly from mineral heat. Ethan guided the ship between them with incredible skill, weaving through narrow gaps and spinning fragments. The enemy ships followed, but they were less careful. One of them hit a rock and exploded into bright dust. Elira gasped as the fire faded in the distance. "They're still behind us," Ethan said. His hands moved quickly on the controls. Another beam of light streaked past, barely missing their wing. "Two left," Elira watched him closely. His focus never wavered, not even when the alarm screamed or the ship shook violently. He looked calm, human but full of courage she couldn't understand. "Ethan," she said softly, "you risk your life for someone you don't know." "Why?" He glanced at her briefly. "Because it's right. You needed help. That's enough reason." Elira looked down, her silver hair falling over her face. "No one from my world would have said that. We always acted for power, for duty, never for kindness." Ethan smiled gently. "Then maybe it's time your world learns a little humanity." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Perhaps you are right." Suddenly, another blast struck the side of the ship. The whole cabin shook violently. Warning lights turned red again. "Shield failure on the left side," the computer said. Ethan cursed under his breath but stayed calm. "I can fix it." "Hold the ship steady." Elira blinked. "Hold the ship?" He jumped up and pointed to the control lever. "Just keep it from spinning. I need to repair the power line manually." She nodded quickly, though fear flashed in her eyes. She had never flown a human ship before, but she placed her hands on the controls, doing her best to follow his quick instructions. Ethan opened a panel near the floor and grabbed a small repair tool. Sparks flew as he connected two glowing wires. "Almost there," he muttered. Elira's hands trembled slightly as she tried to keep the ship steady. Outside, another enemy beam hit an asteroid, sending chunks of rock flying around them. One piece scraped the hull, making the whole ship vibrate. "Hurry, Ethan!" She shouted. "Done!" he said, jumping back to his seat. The shields came back online, glowing blue. "Nice flying, Queen." She exhaled deeply, her heart pounding. "I was certain we would crash." Ethan laughed lightly. "Not today." He pulled the ship upward out of the asteroid field. The two remaining enemy crafts emerged behind them, still in pursuit. "Persistent, aren't they?" Ethan muttered. Elira's eyes glowed faintly. "Their kind knows no mercy. They are called the Karnath, beings of void and hunger. They don't destroy for conquest. They destroy because they hate life." Ethan frowned. "Then we'll have to teach them what humans do when someone threatens life." He tapped a button, opening a small compartment on the control panel. Inside was a compact missile launcher, human-made, limited but powerful. "Computer," he said. "Lock target on the closest Karnath ship." Target locked. Fire. A small missile shot from the Aurora 7, spinning through the dark. A moment later, a flash of light filled the window. The first enemy ship exploded into dust. Only one remained. The last Karnath ship slowed down slightly, as if realizing the danger. But Ethan didn't give it time. He turned the ship sharply and fired again. The second explosion was even brighter. The stars became quiet again. The radar showed no more threats. Ethan leaned back in his seat, breathing hard but smiling. "That's that." Elira looked at him with wide eyes. "You destroyed them all." He shrugged modestly. "Just doing my job." For a long moment, silence filled the cabin. Only the soft hum of the engines could be heard. Then Elira said quietly, "Thank you again, Ethan Cole. I do not think I can ever repay you." He turned to her, his eyes kind. "You don't have to, just live." "That's enough." Her eyes softened. "On my world, we believed humans were wild and simple creatures. But now I see something else. You are brave, you care. You hope even when hope is gone." Ethan smiled faintly. "We try our best." She gazed at him for a long time, as if trying to understand what made him different. For the first time since her world had fallen, she felt safe, not because of walls or armies, but because one human refused to abandon her. After a few moments, she spoke again. "Where will we go now?" "There's a human space station nearby," Ethan replied. "It's small, but we can refuel there and send a message to the Galactic Union. They'll want to know what happened here." Elira nodded slowly. "And after that," he paused. "After that, we'll figure out who the Karnath really are, and why they destroyed your world." Her eyes narrowed slightly, a spark of determination returning. "If they return, I will face them. I am still the Queen of the Vanyari. My people's memory deserves justice, Ethan gave a small smile. Then we'll face them together. Hours passed as they traveled through the quiet dark. Elira rested while Ethan repaired the ship's damaged systems. When she awoke, she found him sitting near the control panel watching the stars. Do humans often travel alone like this? She asked softly. Not always, he said. But sometimes you have to if no one else will go. She smiled faintly. You remind me of the old heroes from our songs. They fought against endless darkness not for power but for others. Ethan looked thoughtful. Maybe all stories are connected somehow. Outside the window, the stars shone brighter as they approached the distant glimmer of the space station. Elira leaned closer to the glass, her eyes reflecting the light. Your stars are different from ours, she said. But they feel alive. Ethan smiled. That's because they're waiting for a new story. For the first time in her life, Elira felt a quiet peace. She didn't know what awaited them next. But she knew one thing for sure. Human kindness had saved her from the edge of darkness. And deep inside, a new strength began to grow, one that would soon change the fate of both their worlds. The space around Aurora 7 grew calmer as the small ship glided toward a large silver structure floating among the stars. The station looked peaceful, rings of glowing light slowly spinning around a bright center. It was known as Station Solace, a place where travelers could rest, repair, and refuel far from the chaos of the galaxy. Ethan entered the access code into the ship's console. This is Aurora 7 requesting docking clearance, he said through the comm channel. A calm voice replied, Docking granted, Bay 3. Welcome to Station Solace, pilot. Elira leaned closer to the window, her violet eyes wide with wonder. It's beautiful, she whispered. Yeah, Ethan said with a small smile. It's one of the safest places out here. When the ship docked, the engines powered down with a gentle hum. Ethan stood stretching his arms. We made it, he said. Time to get you checked by proper medics and get the ship fixed. Elira nodded, though her gaze lingered on the shining corridors of the station. It felt so different from the cold ruins she had known. There was life here, people laughing, machines working, lights glowing warmly. As the airlock opened, they stepped inside. Station Solace was full of color and movement. Humans and aliens from many worlds moved through the halls carrying tools, food, or trade goods. No one paid much attention to the newcomers. Travelers were common here. Ethan guided Elira toward the medical wing. The white room was calm, filled with quiet machines. A friendly robot nurse rolled up to greet them. Welcome. Please state patient name and species. Ethan smiled. This is Queen Elira of the Vanyari. She's the last survivor of her people. The robot's sensors blinked. Data not found. Vanyari species marked extinct. Updating records. Elira lowered her eyes, a trace of sadness passing across her face. Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Not anymore, he said softly. The robot scanned her with a blue light and began gentle treatment. Vital signs improving. Cellular balance restored. Patient will recover fully with rest. Thank you, Elira said politely. Ethan waited nearby as the medical systems finished their work. For the first time since he had found her, Elira looked calm and rested. The pale glow of her skin seemed to brighten under the station lights. Afterward, they went to the observation deck to rest. The view was breathtaking, endless stars surrounding the station like a glittering ocean. Elira leaned on the glass railing, watching in silence. It feels peaceful here, she said. Almost unreal, Ethan nodded. That's what Solace is for. It's a quiet spot in a noisy galaxy. She turned to him. You humans. You build places like this even after all the wars and dangers. Why? He smiled faintly. Because we need hope. Even in the darkest times, humans like to build something good. It reminds us what we're fighting for. Elira's gaze softened. You truly are strange, Ethan Cole, but I begin to see why the stars seem to favor your kind. Before he could reply, a loud voice echoed from behind them. Ethan, you're alive! They turned to see a tall woman in a gray pilot suit running toward them. She had short brown hair and a wide grin. Captain Mara, Ethan said, smiling. Didn't expect to see you here, Mara laughed. You vanished for a week on a rescue mission and I find your ship full of burn marks. What happened this time? Ethan hesitated, glancing at Elira. Long story. I'll explain somewhere private. They walked to a quiet meeting room. When the door closed, Ethan began to explain everything, from finding Elira in the ruins to being chased by the Carnith. When he finished, Mara's cheerful face turned serious. The Karnath? We've heard whispers. Some say they come from the edge of the void. No one's ever met them and lived to tell the story. Alira stood tall, her voice calm but firm. They are real. They destroyed my world. I saw their darkness consume everything, and they will not stop until all life ends. Mara folded her arms deep in thought. If that's true, then humanity's in danger too. Ethan nodded. That's why we have to warn the Union. But before that, we need to understand who these Karnath really are. There must be records, something from before. Mara looked between them, then sighed. There might be something. The old archives here store data from hundreds of civilizations. You can use the research room. I'll make sure you're not disturbed. Thanks, Mara, Ethan said sincerely. The two spent hours in the archive hall. It was a vast circular chamber filled with glowing data crystals and holographic records. Ethan searched through old star maps and military files, while Alira explored ancient Vanyari logs that had been preserved in hidden memory cores. She touched one glowing crystal, and an image appeared, a tall, graceful being made of light and mist. This is one of my ancestors, she said softly. Our people believed knowledge should never die. Ethan smiled. Then maybe they left us the key we need. After several hours, they found something unusual, a fragment of a star chart showing a black region marked Zone Null. The note beside it said, Origin of the Karnath energy signature, unexplored and forbidden. Ethan frowned. Zone Null. That's near the edge of mapped space. Nobody goes there. Alira's eyes glowed faintly. That is where they came from. My people once studied that region, but when our ships entered it, they never returned. He studied the chart closer. Then that's where we'll find answers. Alira looked uncertain. It's too dangerous. The Karnath guard their secrets. Ethan met her gaze. Your world is gone. If we don't stop them, others will fall too. We can't just hide. She saw the steady light in his eyes, the same light that had pulled her from death. Slowly, she nodded. Very well. We will go together. As they prepared to leave the archive, an alert flashed across the station's public channel. Attention all personnel, the voice said. Unidentified ships detected near Station Solace. All defense units prepare. Ethan and Alira exchanged a quick glance. Mara's voice came through Ethan's communicator. Ethan, it's them. The Karnath just appeared out of nowhere, no jump signature, no warning. Ethan's heart raced. How many? Too many. Dozens of small crafts. The station can't hold them for long. Alira's face turned pale. They followed us. They must have traced my energy signature. Ethan grabbed her hand gently. Then we have to move fast. They ran through the corridor toward the docking bay. The floor shook as explosions echoed in the distance. Red emergency lights flashed along the walls. Mara's voice called out again. Ethan, your ship's ready. I'll cover your launch. Thanks, Captain, he said. You always save the day. Just don't make me regret it, she replied with a small laugh before the line cut off. As they reached Aurora 7, the hangar shook again. Pieces of metal fell from the ceiling. Alira looked back, eyes full of worry. She's risking her life for us. Ethan nodded. And I'm not letting that be for nothing. They climbed aboard. The engines roared to life and the ship lifted from the deck. Through the window they saw the Karnath fleet closing in, dark ships glowing with red energy. Ethan guided the Aurora 7 toward open space. Laser beams streaked past, lighting the darkness. Hold on tight, he shouted. Alira gripped the seat as the ship spun and dodged. They are everywhere. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Not for long. He triggered the ship's defensive flares, creating bursts of light that confused the enemy sensors. Then he pushed the throttle to full power. The ship shot forward, leaving the station far behind. On the radar, the Karnath ship slowly faded from view. They were safe. For now. Alira looked back at the stars behind them, her voice full of sorrow. So many lives lost again. Because of me. Ethan turned to her gently. No, they came because they fear what you represent, hope. And hope is worth protecting. She stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. You truly are unlike anyone I have ever met. He chuckled softly. I get that a lot. Ahead of them, the mysterious region called Zone Null waited, dark and silent. Somewhere inside it lay the truth about the Karnath and perhaps the future of both their worlds. As the ship entered the long, cold path toward the unknown, Alira whispered softly, I will not forget those who helped us today. When this is over, I will make sure their courage is remembered. Ethan looked out at the endless night. Then let's make sure we come back to tell their story. The Aurora 7 vanished into the distance, its small light shining bravely against the great darkness ahead. The Aurora 7 drifted silently into the dark emptiness of Zone Null. The stars outside seemed dimmer, as if the region itself swallowed light. Ethan piloted carefully, aware that every step forward was a step into the unknown. Sensors flickered with strange interference, and the ship's AI struggled to process the readings. Elira stood near the observation window, her violet eyes reflecting faint stars. "This place, it feels wrong," she whispered. "My ancestors wrote about the darkness here. They called it the Void's Edge. Few dared to enter." Ethan glanced at her. "Then it's a good thing you're here. Your knowledge might be the only thing that keeps us alive." Her hand touched the glass. "I feel the presence of something ancient, powerful, something that watches." He nodded, gripping the controls tightly. "Whatever it is, it won't stop us." The ship moved deeper into the dark expanse. A strange energy shimmered around them, bending light and twisting the familiar glow of distant stars. Instruments hummed and beeped irregularly, as if the ship itself felt the weight of the place. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the hull. Ethan leaned forward. Sensors, picking up movement. Illyra's eyes widened. "They are near." The Carnith. Small dark ships appeared from the black void, moving in patterns unlike any Ethan had seen before. The Carnith didn't attack immediately. Instead, they hovered as if studying the intruders. "They're waiting," Ethan said. "They want to see what we do next." Elira looked at him, her expression serious. "Then we must be clever. They rely on fear and chaos. We must rely on thought and courage." Ethan smiled faintly. "I think I can manage that." He maneuvered the Aurora 7 through a narrow field of floating energy crystals, their surfaces glowing faintly with a blue hue. The Carnith followed, matching each turn. "They are learning our movements," Ethan said. "We need to find another way." Elira studied the glowing crystals. "Use the energy fields against them. They will avoid the unstable currents, but we can pass through." Ethan nodded, following her instructions. The ship weaved through the crystals, twisting and gliding as beams of light refracted off their surfaces. The Carnith ships hesitated, unable to risk the unstable currents. Slowly, the small human ship pulled ahead, leaving the Carnith behind. When they emerged on the other side, Ethan exhaled deeply. "Nice thinking. You just saved us again." Elira smiled faintly. "We save each other, Ethan. That is what allies do." For a few hours, the Aurora 7 traveled deeper, the void around them growing darker. Then suddenly a massive structure appeared in the distance, a colossal ring of black metal and crystal floating silently. Energy pulsed along its surface, forming intricate patterns. Ethan's eyes widened. "What is that?" Elira's breath caught. This is the Carnith's origin. Their cradle, the heart of their power." As they approached, the ship's sensors detected massive energy fluctuations. The AI warned. Extreme gravitational distortion detected. Navigation unstable. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Hold steady. I can handle this." Elira turned toward him. "I will guide you. Trust my instincts. My ancestors once mapped these currents." The Aurora 7 moved closer to the enormous ring, spinning through invisible currents of energy. The ship trembled as gravitational forces tugged it in multiple directions. Ethan adjusted the thrusters continuously, relying on Elira's guidance. Finally, they entered a small, safe zone at the center of the ring. There, a vision of history appeared before them. Holographic images projected from the structure, showing scenes of the Carnith in their early existence. Elira's voice trembled. "I have never seen this preserved." The Carnith were once protectors of life, keepers of balance in the galaxy. But something changed. Something corrupted them. Ethan leaned closer. "What happened?" The hologram showed a dark, swirling energy overtaking the Carnith. Bright, noble forms twisted into shadows, their eyes filled with hunger instead of care. Elira's eyes widened. "It is the void energy." It fed on their fear and anger, twisted their purpose. "My people once tried to contain it, but it overwhelmed them." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So they're not naturally evil. They were corrupted. There's still a chance to stop them, isn't there?" Elira looked at him, hope flickering in her eyes. Perhaps, but we must act carefully. The void energy will resist, and it is cunning. Suddenly, the ring's energy pulsed violently. The ship trembled as a voice echoed inside their minds. Not words, but feelings of cold hunger, fear, and power. They know we are here, Alira whispered. And they are testing us. Ethan gripped the controls. Let them try. We've made it this far. The holographic images shifted, showing a hidden chamber within the ring, a place of incredible power. Crystals glowing with pure light formed a network across the floor. Alira's eyes sparkled. That is their core, she said softly. If we can reach it, we might find a way to cleanse the void energy, or at least understand it. Ethan nodded. Then we go. He guided the Aurora 7 closer to the ring, weaving through narrow gaps between pulsing energy streams. The ship vibrated with every movement, but Ethan's hands were steady, and Alira's guidance precise. Finally, they landed on a small platform attached to the structure. The air was thick with energy. The ground beneath them pulsed like a heartbeat, and the walls shimmered with light that seemed alive. Alira stepped forward cautiously. The Karnath core. It is more beautiful than I imagined and more dangerous. Ethan looked around, awe in his eyes. I've never seen anything like this. But we're here for a reason, she nodded. We must understand its nature before it spreads further. If we fail, countless worlds will fall. Together they approached the glowing crystals. Alira reached out and touched one. Instantly, visions of past and future filled her mind. She gasped, stepping back. They were once guardians, she whispered, not enemies. And their corruption? It can be reversed if approached with care and courage. Ethan studied the network of crystals. Then we need a plan. Something precise, careful, and bold. And we need each other. Alira looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. You risked your life to save me. You did not know who I was, yet you acted without fear. Perhaps that is why we can succeed. Your courage inspires me. Ethan felt warmth in his chest. Then let's make sure that courage counts for something bigger than both of us. For hours they studied the core, recording its energy patterns and behavior. Every observation brought understanding, but also caution. One wrong step could awaken the corrupted Karnath within, and the energy could engulf them both. Finally, Alira turned to Ethan. We now know their weakness. The void energy feeds on fear and despair. If we remain steadfast, if we focus on hope, we can resist it. Ethan smiled. So it's not just about strength or firepower. It's about hope, she nodded. Yes, and now humans and Vanyari together must act. We can cleanse it slowly, carefully, using our combined strength and knowledge. Ethan reached out his hand. Then we do this together. Whatever comes. Alira took his hand, her grip firm and steady. Together. Outside, the dark expanse of Zone Null seemed to pulse in response. For the first time, the corruption of the Karnath felt like something they could challenge, not with weapons alone, but with courage, intelligence, and the bond forming between them. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknowns and tests of bravery. But as the Aurora 7 rested on the platform, a small light of hope shone within the void, and deep inside, Alira knew she owed everything to the human who had rescued her, Ethan Cole. Not just her life, but the chance to reclaim the future for her people, and perhaps for the galaxy itself. Together, they stood at the heart of the Karnath domain, ready to face whatever came next. The stars outside glimmered faintly, as if cheering on two souls bound by courage and hope. The air around the Aurora 7 hummed with raw energy, as Ethan and Alira stepped carefully through the glowing platform of the Karnath core. Each pulse of light sent faint vibrations through the floor like the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. This place, Alira whispered. It is alive in a way humans do not understand. The void energy is aware of us, Ethan nodded. Then we make sure it knows we are not afraid. She glanced at him, her violet eyes full of admiration. You saved me once, and now we stand together ready to face the unknown. Humans truly are remarkable. Ethan smiled, though his hands remained steady on the control panel he had set up. Then let's do this together. They had spent hours observing the crystal network, mapping its energy flows and identifying points where the void energy concentrated. Alira explained that the Karnath had once been noble guardians of life, but the void energy had twisted their purpose, feeding on fear and despair. If we act with courage and hope, not aggression, she said, we can reverse the corruption. Ethan glanced at the glowing crystals. Then no weapons, no fighting, Just focus, understanding, and resolve. Elira nodded. She extended her hand toward a crystal. Energy rippled outward as she concentrated. A soft glow spread, interacting with Ethan's own energy field. Slowly, the dark tendrils of void energy recoiled, twisting and writhing as if confused. "This is working," Ethan whispered. "Keep going." Elira's face was determined. "It is not enough to touch one crystal. We must link them all, spread the light across the network. Only then will the core recognize hope over fear." Ethan stepped forward, placing his hands on another crystal. The energy flowed into him like a current of warmth. His mind focused on life, kindness, and the countless acts of courage he had witnessed across the galaxy. Each memory strengthened the flow. Elira's voice rang softly, guiding him. "Think of your people, Ethan. Think of the lives worth saving, the friends, the families, the wonders of the universe. Let hope drive your heart." Ethan closed his eyes, letting every thought of kindness and bravery fill him. The crystals pulsed brighter, and the dark energy around the core trembled. Elira joined him at the next point, then the next, forming a chain of light that slowly encircled the entire structure. Suddenly, the void energy pushed back, a massive surge of dark force threatening to overwhelm them. The Aurora 7 trembled. Ethan opened his eyes and met Elira's gaze. "Fear is what it feeds on," she said, her voice calm and steady. "We must not give it even a flicker." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. "Then we give it hope instead." Together they projected courage, life, and care into the crystals. Waves of light spread outward, washing over the dark tendrils. The core shuddered, twisting violently, but the light held strong. "This is it," Elira whispered. "The moment we reclaim their purpose." Ethan added his strength, memories of the lives he had saved, the people he had known, and the simple acts of human courage filled him completely. Each pulse of hope amplified the glow of the network, overwhelming the darkness. For a long moment, silence filled the void. Then a wave of light burst from the core, spreading across the platform, the ring, and outward into Zone Null. The black ships of the Karnath paused, their dark forms flickering as the corruption began to unravel. Elira gasped softly. "They are returning to themselves. The Karnath are remembering who they were." One by one, the dark ships shifted into faint glowing forms. The shadows lifted, revealing the original shapes of the Guardians, beings of light and elegance. They hovered silently, studying Ethan and Elira. Ethan swallowed hard. "They're alive in a way, not corrupted anymore." Elira stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Your courage has rekindled their true nature. The galaxy is safe, at least for now." The restored Karnath hovered, their forms shining brightly. Then slowly they moved past the Aurora 7, circling the core with graceful patterns. Energy pulsed harmoniously, replacing the chaos of the void energy with balance. Ethan watched, awe filling him. "We did it. Together." Elira smiled, a soft glow in her eyes. "No one else could have done this. Not just humans, not just Vanyari. Together we restored what was lost." As the energy calmed, the Aurora 7 sensors confirmed that the void energy was no longer aggressive. The core's pulse shifted from chaotic darkness to steady harmony. Ethan exhaled, relief flooding him. "Finally, the danger is over, at least here." Elira turned to him, her expression full of gratitude. "I cannot thank you enough, Ethan Cole. You risked everything for me, for my people, and for life itself. Your courage and kindness, they are unlike anything I have ever known." Ethan shook his head with a small smile. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Her violet eyes softened. "And yet here I am, overwhelmed with gratitude. I will honor your actions for as long as I live. I will tell the story of the human who saved an alien queen and the hope they brought to the galaxy." Ethan laughed lightly. "You make it sound heroic. I was just trying to survive." "You were more than that," she said firmly. "You were the spark that reminded me and all who suffered that courage, kindness, and hope can change the darkest fate." Outside the ring, Zone Null began to brighten as the energy of restored Guardians spread. Stars that had seemed dim now shone with renewed brilliance. Ethan gazed out the window, feeling a rare sense of peace in the vastness of space. Elira placed a hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy owes you more than I can express. You have given me life, and you have given all worlds a chance to heal." Ethan shook his head, smiling. "We did it together. That's all that matters," Elira nodded. Perhaps the stars themselves remember this day. Perhaps the universe has noticed what humans and Vanyari can achieve when hope guides their hearts. Ethan leaned back in the chair. I guess the galaxy has room for more heroes after all, she laughed softly, a sound that seemed to echo across the core. And one of them is a human named Ethan Cole. They spent hours observing the transformed zone, learning from the restored Karnath and documenting the energy patterns. Ethan repaired the ship's minor damage while Alira recorded Vanyari knowledge about the void energy. They worked side by side, their partnership solidified by trust, courage, and mutual respect. As the Aurora 7 prepared to leave, Alira looked back at the glowing ring. I will return to my people someday, she said softly. And when I do, I will ensure that their legacy lives, and that your courage is remembered, Ethan Cole. He smiled warmly. Then I look forward to hearing about it. But for now, we head home. The journey back was quiet, but filled with a gentle sense of victory. Zone Null's darkness had been transformed, and the galaxy now had a chance to flourish once more. Ethan and Alira knew that challenges remained, but they had proven that courage, hope, and cooperation could overcome even the darkest forces. Finally, the stars of familiar space came into view. The Aurora 7 glided past planets and distant suns, carrying two travelers whose bond had changed the course of history. Alira looked at Ethan one last time. You saved me when I was alone. You reminded me that life is worth fighting for. I will never forget your kindness, Ethan smiled. And I'll never forget you, Queen Alira. The galaxy is brighter because of you and because we didn't give up. As the ship disappeared into the light of distant stars, hope shone brighter than ever. The galaxy had been touched by human courage, and by the grace of a young queen who had learned that thanks alone could not repay a hero, but could inspire generations to come. And so, together they continued forward, ready to face the future. For in the vastness of the stars where darkness had once reigned, hope now had a champion. And humans had proven that courage, kindness, and unity could light even the coldest void.